Welcome to Snowflake Data Superheroes Origins. I'm your host, Kent Graziano, Snowflake's Chief Technical Evangelist, and also known as the Data Warrior. I'm also an 8th degree black belt and grandmaster in the martial art of Taekwondo. In each episode, I welcome one of our data superheroes into the Data Dojo for an in-depth and candid interview about the world of data. Join us on the mat for this week's exciting conversation. In this episode, I welcome our very first Snowflake data superhero in APAC, Ingrid Anzola. She's joining me on the mat in the Data Dojo for a candid interview about her experience in the world of data. Ingrid is a principal data engineer at Deputy and joins us today all the way from down under in Sydney, Australia. Welcome to the Data Dojo, Ingrid.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to this chat.
Yeah, well, we're real happy to have you here. It's great to meet you and have you here on our show.
Yeah, thanks for such a warm introduction.
So you've been pretty busy down there in Australia, and you pretty much pioneered our community down under and really have helped out with our user group meetings and a lot of other things. But some of the viewers are outside of APAC, of course, and probably really don't know you very well. So would you mind telling us a bit about yourself and a little bit of your background?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm actually born in Venezuela, South America, and I have a degree in software engineer from there. I worked in South America for a few years before coming to Australia. I have been in the software engineering community for around 20 years now, before the cloud. So I'm one of the privileged people who had the experience of see the technology evolving from on-premises to cloud, and more importantly, how data became part of that evolution. I have been working in oil companies, telecommunications, environmental, digital, and more recently, a deputy in the workforce community.
Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about your role today at Deputy?
At Deputy, I became the first data engineer at Deputy 2 years ago as part of Deputy's a goal to improve in general the data ecosystem. As you might know, Deputy has grown very fast in the last 4 to 5 years, and with that comes a lot of commitments around data. One of the first functions or tasks that I had within Deputy was to find the right warehouse for the challenges that we are facing ahead, and that's when we met Snowflake. So we did the transition into Snowflake 2 years ago, and it has been an amazing journey. It opens a lot of doors to what we are doing in the future.
So when did you develop your passion for data and data engineering?
Look, my passion for data, as I mentioned before, I actually was part of the evolution of data and cloud and all that. And I actually was one of the part of the artificial intelligence team back in South America for an oil company. Back then, we were trying, when you have machines to extract oil from the ground, when those machines break, they are very difficult to move outside the ground because they break. So the purpose of our first task back then was to try to identify when the machines are about to break so we can move them before that happens. As you can imagine, we had a lot of sensor data, but we didn't know what to do with it. Like, what are we supposed to do? We had MATLAB and we have C back then. But okay, what do? We didn't have neural networks. Artificial intelligence was actually a very weird topic. People didn't think that that was true, that was going to happen. I did. So we developed a system to identify when the machine was going to fail. It was an unsupervised network. And I fell in love with data. It was amazing to see how we actually were able to take all these weird numbers, sensor data, all this massive information that we were having. It was back then, it was a massive challenge to put that amount of data somewhere to let alone to be analyzed. So at that point, I say, okay, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. This is definitely it. For different reasons, I moved from oil into telecommunications, and that's, you can imagine the amount of data that we had in telecommunications. And again, is just being able to see the history of people's communication in a database. For me, that was fascinating. I do have to say UI and front end is not my strength. And I actually admire front end people because they see the world in a way that I will never be able to see. So I always fall back to the database and the data because it was the way that I could understand what was going on.
Yeah, I completely understand. It sounds like you actually, when you were in the oil and gas area, you were in what we would call it IoT data, right? And back then it was sensor data, and there was, minimal internet. I worked in oil and gas software myself for a while, as well as telecoms, been both of those spaces, and there's a lot of data.
Yeah, I used to get the files in oh my God, I don't want to say this flop because the flop disk, because that's the
floppy disks.
No. But yeah, the way that we received the data, because the machines were, very far away from my office. I was in the capital, the machines were on the west. So we need to find a way to, transport that data into the office and then find a computer who could take it. It was absolutely challenging, and see how far it has get. It's just, I feel honestly privileged that I was able to witness that evolution. So yeah, I'm very proud of all my grace her trying to get there.
Yeah, so you were really kind of ahead of the curve on the data because you were dealing with AI and sensor data, which today is a really big deal. Clouds made it a little easier, right, to get the data and process it, and we have more processing power, so we could do it a lot faster. But yeah, you got some great experience there early on in things that are very popular today.
Yeah, and a couple of years ago, I actually was the head of platform in the Yield, which is an IoT company for agriculture. And it was amazing to see how now we get this sensor data. We were receiving the data every 15 minutes from all the sensors around farms in Tasmania. And I was like, oh, where were you 15 years ago when I needed you? It definitely has been fascinating. And I think one of the main challenges of that evolution is being able to evolve yourself as an engineer. It's very easy to stick to the old ways. Back then, when we were in oil, it was all about relational databases, and redundancy wasn't as accepted as it is right now. And as an engineer, if you don't move forward with those changes, you can not just miss the fun, but get yourself stuck in the past and how things used to be. That doesn't mean that we cannot take what we learned in the past. That's what I bring to all that experience. But you do need to learn as well that things change, and how we see that has changed. Now redundancy is actually a pattern in some use cases, whereas 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was not acceptable. And I think that was one of my main challenges, trying to say, okay, yes, when I was in oil company, this was what worked, but that's not longer relevant. Let's do it in a different way.
Yeah, and I think the reduction in price and cost of storage has changed our attitudes about redundancy. I think everybody always knew there were certain use cases where you should have redundancy, but it was deemed too expensive, and so they were balancing the risks versus the cost. Now, the price of storage is so inexpensive, it's not really a question anymore. If you don't have redundancy built in, they're asking you, why don't you have redundancy built in? Exactly. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, things change. Things have changed a lot. What does a typical day in the life of a data superhero like you look like?
Look, I think that it's about balance. The data community it can be very I don't want to say noisy, but it can be overwhelming. So I think a typical day for a data superhero is spend some time creating, innovating, but as well doing, maintenance and learning and practicing, exercising what you know, and empowering other people in the data community. I think that's very important. And in a normal day, I would say, yeah, it's a balance between getting work done and learning a bit more every day.
And are you able to do that yourself most days?
I'm trying. I look. There are days where it's better. I think I'm trying. No, I'm not able to do it every day.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
balance, that's a challenge for all of us all the time. But it's great advice for people to
And
try to do
working
that.
and working from home now is very easy. Like when you start doing, like, I don't know, playing with a new feature, a new tool, it's very easy to stay there. Oh, it's nighttime. What's going on?
That's if your family doesn't come and
Oh,
drag you out of your office.
oh yeah, I'm supposed to feed the kids. Okay.
So,
So,
what's your all-time favorite Snowflake feature so far?
um, that's a difficult question, and actually, people have asked me that a few times, and I think that my go-to answer is always external tables. I find them so cool, and as Snowflake add more features to it, I think that it can solve a lot of exploration, which is part of my job day to day, like exploring the data, through external tables, where you decide if, bringing the whole data into Snowflake is the right implementation, ad hoc exploration with external tables, the fact that we can have streams on it, and the combination that you can add. I just really like that feature. I find it, I don't know, a reflection of what a Snowflake is like. Is you can work with other tools and be successful. Take the best of the both worlds.
Are there any newer features or new features that are coming out that you're looking forward to trying out?
Yes, we actually found out recently that we're going to be able to have different accounts within an organization. I'm looking forward to that one, because we do have a couple of deputy use cases at deputy that it might be perfect for that feature. So yeah, I have been getting my hands up and say, oh, if we can do a private preview, we're in.
Yeah, so that's the organization structure.
Yes.
Adding that in. I think that's public already. Maybe a public preview.
Probably preview, yeah. Most
And
recently, we started looking into the widget to create objects. The analyst has been actually doing a bit of testing on that one as well, and it's actually very handy.
cool, good. So, of you've done a lot in our community. So, what contribution are you the most proud of?
Look, the one that it makes me smile is when we had the talk in the Snowflake conference back in November. And one of the reasons why I'm very proud of that contribution, actually two reasons. One is because it was a talk in collaboration with the head of data analyst at Deputy. And I think that one thing that Deputy we get right is that collaboration between data engineering and data analyst. And during that talk, we reflected that. And we did it talking about that the Snowflake structure that we brought into Deputy, where we do different separation of layers and so on and so on. I think that I'm proud because it reflects what I'm very passionate about, that data engineers, we are here to serve data analysts, data scientists, and in general, our internal customers. And I was able to show that during that conference. Of course, all the credit to Tom, the head of data analytics at Deputy, who made that possible, because it was a two people collaboration.
So, what advice would you have for aspiring data superheroes?
Just do as I say and not as I do, because I'm gonna say just get in there. Just try it. If you wanna try the certification, just give it a go. And if it doesn't work, just try again. Get your hands dirty. Do a lot of hands-on work, but get involved with the community. The community, and right now that we are remote, the Slack channel for the data engineering is very big. We have a lot of conversations on data in there. So, and I think that that's the best way of become the data superhero that you want to be. Be passionate about some area of data and just go for it.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. And like I said, that's one of the advantages, I guess, of everybody being remote is maybe you can be involved a little more just because of that. But yeah, picking something and really digging into it and getting good at
Yeah,
that and understanding that is really important.
yeah, and I probably should follow my own advice because I really like to have conversations in the community about data engineering, but I probably should spend more time creating living in a permanent storage in some writing format, and I think that that's something I probably should spend more time doing. At the same time, there's a lot of people in the community who writes really good posts, but is a bit hesitant to put themselves out in the community and speaking up. And I think that that's okay, but the combination of both is very interesting.
So, who do you follow for inspiration?
To start, the data engineering podcast is one of my go-to places. Usually when I'm preparing breakfast, I'm hearing what's coming out in there. And usually when you go into the data engineering, I do follow, I do unpack the whole post. I go into the links, I check out the person who is talking. I decide by myself if, okay, do I agree with what this person is saying or not, and why not? I really like to follow immediate Fishtown analytics because I'm actually find DBT very interesting. In general, I follow the data engineering area in Medium. I actually lately have been following Fivetran post.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find them very interesting, and segment posts are actually very interesting as well. When you look into what they are trying to achieve, I actually quite like them.
Yeah, and I think
Of course,
Fivetran.
Snowflake, that's a
Oh,
given.
yeah, and
There's
Fivetran
no,
and DBT are partnered up now too. They've got a partnership, so those two go together quite well.
and Peter Hansen, who is leading the data engineering Slack channel community, he has a very good setup in Slack. So you actually every night at dinner time you get a bot message with a new article on data engineering. So kudos to Peter that did that and has made an amazing effort to keep the community together.
Wow, yeah, that's good to have something like that. So you, even if you don't get to it during the day, you get a reminder at the end
They
of the
get a
day and
reminder,
something to read.
and then you read the title and say, oh well, okay, most 9 out of 10, okay, let me see what's going on, and then the fire alarm goes off in your house and say, oh, I probably should go back to dinner.
So, what's next for you in the data superhero journey? Do you have any blog posts or other user groups or things planned?
Look, my next, as I said before, I have to follow my own advice. My next step is to get the certification in place. That's one thing. The next thing is like I need to break that fear I have of my English grammar and try to write more posts about the things I am passionate about. I do have some challenging ideas or not common ideas about how do we should serve the community, and I think that it will be great to put them out there and see the feedback that I receive from the community, and hopefully one of those posts that Peter shares in the community will come from me. I'm working in collaboration with one of our data analysts. We actually are creating right now a Medium post about how do we use external functions at Deputy. So we are creating a case of end to end of what part data engineering implemented and one part data analyst implemented.
Oh,
With
that's
external
great.
functions in Snowflake, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good. There's a lot of interest in external functions, so it'd be good to have another post talking about a specific implementation.
It's a specific use case. We are unpacking the case that we discussed during the Snowflake conference.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so the session that you did for our Snowflake summit last November,
Summit,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Good. That would be good to get the details, because yeah, it's hard to get the details out in a 45-minute presentation and be able to really discuss it, especially from a data engineering perspective. And people in data engineers want to see code, right? They want to see examples.
Yeah, and actually, Rodoshi, who is the data analyst who implemented the data analyst part, and I, like, it was a bit of a journey there. Like, it wasn't something that we figured out in one day. We had to make a lot of mistakes before we got the right way of using it, where we were comfortable, okay, this is gonna work, and it can be set up in production. So it's interesting to see, the effort that she made, how Snowflake was able to give us that space for data engineering and data analysts together.
Can you tell us something about yourself that would maybe surprise the viewers? You already told us that you moved from Venezuela to Australia. So
12 years in Australia now. I'm an Aussie.
So what else would maybe surprise our viewers about you?
I actually have an 18-year-old daughter, and she speaks 3 languages, which I have nothing to do with. She's just a very, very improved version of myself. But yes, I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I'm very proud of her. I'm actually a single mom.
So what languages does she speak?
She speaks English, Spanish, and Japanese.
Oh, wow. That's a good combination.
Yes, she one day, I see a lot of her, of myself in her. Like, one day she woke up and said, I'm going to Japan. Give me your credit card. But she did it, and she came back speaking Japanese. So it was totally worth it. But yeah, I'm very proud. That's one of my proudest achievements, having, that girl.
Wow, that's great. That's really good. So how can our viewers continue to follow you? What's the best way for them to track you and look for your upcoming blog posts?
On Medium, I'm I Jurgensen. That's my last name. And on Twitter, I'm I Tyrus, Tirus.
And you're on LinkedIn as well, right?
Yes, I'm LinkedIn and Ingrid Anzola. That one is easier. You will find me. I do come up in that one easy.
Yeah, so we're going to need a cross-reference table for your names and your aliases there.
It's just my nickname is a bit like, I do know that some people cannot find me on Twitter because I'm using my nickname, but I'm there.
That's great. So, well, I guess that's pretty much all the time we have today, Ingrid. So thank you so much for being with us and doing this interview. It was great to get to chat with you. So hopefully I'll get to see you in real life at some point, that we'll all be able to travel again.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
Been a year since, it's been a year and a half since I've been to Australia.
It would be great to meet you in person. It has been really fun to chat, and I'm always keen to advocate for data engineer and data analyst and data scientists.
Great. Again, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thanks everyone for joining us today in the Snowflake Data Dojo. If you got a kick out of this interview, please like it and share it with your friends. This is Kent Graziano, the Data Warrior, signing off for now. See you on the next episode of Data Superheroes Origins.